Hi, this is Jaya. In this video, we shall see the summary of Fasting, Feasting by Anita Desai. The story takes place in a small town in India and it is during 1970s. And we find Uma, a young girl being raised by a very conservative Indian family. Uma has a younger sister Aruna and a younger brother Arun. The family believes that girls should be married off while boys should be educated. Uma takes little interest in marriage or household chores and she loves attending her convent school despite her failing grades. That is, she is not very good in studies. When Arun is born, the young Uma is forced to stop her education and start taking care of him. Uma runs away to the convent school and fruitlessly begs Mother Agnes to talk to her mama papa into letting her back into school. Uma, for the first time, gets a seizure on the convent hall after Mother Agnes says she is powerless to help her. Papa, a middle government magistrate with a fragile ego, dominates his family life by dictating the family's daily activities and everyone's future. Priding herself as the wife of an important man, Mama cooperates with Papa on almost every issue. Uma is ready for marriage but has very few suitors. One of them prefers a younger sister, Aruna. One of them gets engaged to her just so he and his family can access her dowry, but then backs off. And then the man she does marry ends up already being married, again another scheme to get her dowry. Therefore, Uma returns home deemed unmarriageable. Uma's beautiful cousin Anamika has the opportunity to go to Oxford University, but her parents Lily, auntie, and Bakul uncle don't allow her to go. Instead, they marry her off to the wealthiest, most educated man they can find. Soon, Uma and her parents hear that Anamika's husband and mother-in-law beat Anamika and treat her like a servant. Aruna, meanwhile, receives many marriage proposals, and among that she chooses Aravind, a wealthy man from Bombay. After an expensive ceremony, Aruna leaves for a new life in Bombay and only visits her home occasionally. And even during those visits, she acts superior to her family, particularly towards Uma. Given great care and attention, Arun studies to the point of exhaustion every night until under the supervision of a forceful papa. Quiet and expressionless, Arun has been vegetarian since childhood to the dismay of his parents, who see it as weak and old-fashioned. Neglected and confined, Uma tries whenever possible to get away from home. On one occasion, her relative Meera Masi, a religious widow who travels the country freely, tricks Mama Papa into letting her bring Uma with her to an ashram or pilgrimage house. There, Uma wanders around freely and happily for a month until Mama Papa sent her cousin Ramu to bring her back. There, she had one of her episodes, that is, Shisha-like events that Meera Masi proclaimed were evidence of Shiva having chosen her as a vessel. Women in the community tried to bring Uma out of her entrapped family life, inviting her to socialize and work with them. On another occasion, Dr. Dutt comes to Mama Papa's house to invite Uma to come work for her, but Mama and Papa refuse. Uma is frustrated that her parents do not let her do anything. One night, the family hears that Anamika has been found dead, actually burnt to death on her porch. Whether it is suicide or murder is unclear. Lily auntie and Bakul uncle visit to distribute Anamika's ashes in the sacred river. After much hard work, Arun wins a scholarship to study in America. When he arrives to Massachusetts, he tiredly withdraws, spending his first year in school by himself. The following summer, Arun reluctantly stays with an American family, Mr. Patton and Mrs. Patton, and their child, Rod and Melanie. Mrs. Patton is the sister of Mrs. O. Henry, a Christian missionary's wife in India, and she, along with Arun's family, set this up. Mrs. Patton warmly welcomes Arun, but he soon sees how she struggles against the strong will of her unappreciative husband. Mr. Patton and the athletic, self-oriented Rod ignore Mrs. Patton and Melanie, focusing on work, working out, and playing sports. Arun feels like a fish out of water in the suburbs. He is a vegetarian in a land of carnivores. He does not share anyone's interest, and many of American customs seem strange and very wasteful. That summer, Mrs. Patton tries to make Arun feel welcome, becoming a vegetarian herself and inviting him to go grocery shopping with her. Her attention makes him feel uncomfortable, as does the strained family dynamic. Mr. Patton is often impatient and angry. Rod is never home, and Melanie, Arun discovers, is blooming and anxiously tries to find a way to tell that Mrs. Patton what is wrong. Meanwhile, one day in the grocery store, a cashier tells Mrs. Patton that she looks pregnant. Mrs. Patton becomes obsessed with suntanning, further neglecting her daughter. Towards the end of summer, Arun and Melanie go with Mrs. Patton to a pond. Arun delightfully enjoys the feeling of escaping himself when swimming. Later, while Mrs. Patton is sunbathing, Arun goes to look for Melanie, who has disappeared. He finds her half conscious in a pile of her own vomit. Mrs. Patton soon arrives, shocked at what she sees. Melanie enters into a rehabilitative institution and Rod leaves for college. Mr. Patton takes a second job and Mrs. Patton becomes interested in Eastern spirituality. Arun readies himself to leave and gives a scarf and tea from his parents to Mrs. Patton. They were meant for him, but he did not want to try and pack them up. Mrs. Patton is very touched by Arun's gesture, and Arun leaves, returning to the school at the university. And here ends the story. It's a beautiful story by Anita Desai. If you have anything more to add on to what I've said, please write it in the comment box. Like the video, share it with your friends, and if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe and support. Thank you.